I'm going to get us reeled back in because we're going to move on into our customers. So we talked about value, but now what will help define that and help you really understand that even better is to really figure out who the heck your customers are. So we talked about this a little bit in the Shift workshop, but we're way out here with this potential market right now. Most of us have not figured out specifically enough yet who our customers are. So we're going to sort of, in this series of exercises, start to get down deeper into a place where we know that we have actually penetrated a very specific market. So, if you think about concentric circles, there's like everybody, then there's potential market, there's people who are available, that's a little bit closer in, like that they're somewhat maybe your people. But we're going to really try and get you closer to that. But we're going to start by recognizing that this really is the whole key. If you are not thinking about your customers, you're thinking about yourself. And there's nothing wrong with thinking about ourselves, but there is a problem if you're really trying to build something that is going to have an impact as a for-profit, as a nonprofit, as an artist, as an engineer, as whatever the heck you are. If we're not thinking about our customers, then we're missing the boat completely. So what we're trying to figure out is what do they want and how do we get it to them in a way that feels great for us and feels good for them, where everybody's values are being reflected and appropriately. So what we're going to help you start to do is to get a little bit more comfortable with the research that is possible thanks to the fabulous internets. So there is just so much more that you can figure out than there used to be about who people are, and it allows us to be really reflective in thinking about what is our customer, because it's not just a person who buys something from you. A customer is also potentially a partner, somebody who is part of your actual business plan. It could be a funder. It could be someone who's interested in giving you a loan. There are all sorts of ways to think about who your customers are. It's not just somebody who walks down the street and into your store and buys something from you. It's a little bit deeper than that when you start to uncover. And in a good way, it's deeper because there's all sorts of ways that people can engage with what it is that you're passionate about than just buying something. So we're going to really figure out who those folks are for you. And part of what we're talking about is this really technical definition, which is a market refers to a group of consumers or organizations that is interested in, has the resources to purchase, and is permitted by law to acquire your product and service. That is like the legal thing. But what it really is people who want to and can buy your stuff. That's all it is. It's not this complicated pie in the sky, crazy business thing. All the market is people who can buy your stuff. So our goal is to figure out the smallest number of those people, not because we think that we only should serve a small number, but because it's so much easier to communicate your value proposition and your product to people who you know a whole lot about, and people who you can figure out how to use language that makes sense and feels comfortable to you. So research is a wonderful thing. Some of you are going to have a research style that could be a hindrance, which could be that you just want to pretend that you have all the information already and you don't really need to spend any time looking deeper into who these customers are because you've got it all figured out and you just want to run, you just want to go. And that is very tempting. The other danger is digging into this research practice too much and relying on it as a crutch for a reason why you don't do anything, which is, well, wait, I'm not ready. I need to learn more about the women who are aged 35 to 47 and a half, and I know what their hair color is that I want to go after, but I need to know their eye color too. And this is a trap that some of us can get stuck in because it's a good way of procrastinating, making decisions.
Resistance.
And it is resistance. It is not doing the work. It is doing work, it's just not the work. So we want to find the happy medium between ignoring the information that actually could really help us and doing too much of it. So that's where we're going to try and get you to, so that you can actually build your minimum viable product and have a prototype that makes sense, that has enough information that you can figure out good, solid questions that you're going to want to ask these customers along the way about what you are doing. So, our first little exercise is just to for you think about who your favorite, ideal, most wonderful customer possibly could be. So don't think about any business terms, just think about who the heck do you like. And this is the part where you get to be dreamy. Like, who do you want to buy or use or do your stuff? So the most ideal. What do they look like? What do they smell like? What do they sound like? Anything that you can think about that describes them is what you want to think about right now. So we talked about this very briefly in the Shift workshop, but it is really important that you like your customers.
And they like you.
And that hopefully they like you as well. But think about that really carefully, and this is something that we sort of overlook sometimes, is who is your customer, and making sure that you are clear enough in your mind about who you really like. And sometimes that means that you have to be sort of harsh a little bit about being honest about who you want around you, and there's nothing wrong with that. Be as honest as you can about who you want to be doing what you are doing with you. Okay, so spend 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. I'll be able to tell when you're done. Writing down your ideal customer. Imagine who the people are that you want to walk through the door and engage with. And think about this, and that's part of what we're going to be doing now, is trying to take what you just wrote down as your ideal customer into something that you can do something with, that makes it a little bit more real, a little bit less nebulous, and idealized, a little more practical. Does anybody want to share what their ideal customer is?
I would, since I'm doing the STEAM shops, it's a different type of customer. So I said a child who has not had the opportunity for engaging in typical enrichment activities. Maybe her parents work nights, or she lives with her grandparents. Maybe she's just been discouraged from envisioning herself doing these types of things.
Okay. So that's probably where most of you are, is somewhere in that space that has some descriptors about what the person is like, that implies some things. And now we're going to try and figure out how to segment that audience a little bit deeper and start to describe what those different market segments are. So this is businessy language. Yes, this is a market segment. All it means is we're going to group people that have similar characteristics using a couple of different dividers. So a segment exhibits common needs. They're uniquely different from other people, so they have an identifying characteristic or behavior. And this is probably the most important one, they have a similar response to what it is that you're offering. So you're trying to find people who respond the same in a positive way, or potentially in a negative way, that's good information, to what it is that you're designing and what it is that you're trying to do. So when you think about market segments, there are 4 different segments that we often divide people by: geography, demographics, psychographics, and behavioral segments as well. So geographic, this is the where. So we can divide people by where they live, by what that terrain looks like, literally on the ground. It could be a geographic descriptor, it could be a political descriptor, whatever dividing lines that from a physical space perspective is important. Climate. Think about geography in a really broad way. There are a bunch of pieces to geography. It's not just what's your zip code, although a zip code could be an important divider for you. It may be that you only want to serve people in 40403 and 40404. That may be your divider. Well, there's geography within that that's important that you'll start to dig into that makes up a market segment that just is about their geography. So imagine then demographics. So think, what are demographics? Age, gender, education, not religion yet.
But financial.
Financial, education level, all those census tract kinds of data, which by the way, of course, you could access at a ridiculous level. Psychographic, has anybody heard this term before? So this is why people do what they do. This is a really new and important piece of market research and understanding people, is why do they do stuff. So think about what people's values are, what their personality types are, what their opinions are, what are their attitudes. Here's where religion comes in. What are their religious values? That's a market segment that you can think about. And matters in particular for this group, for almost all of you, because all of you have a connection back to community and people and values, and that this is actually a really important piece of how you're going to segment out who your customers are. And then the final one is behavioral. What do we do? So we've got where are they, who are you, why are you doing it, and then what the heck are you doing? So what are your hobbies? What are the activities that make up your day? What are your habits? Those are all different ways that we describe ourselves and that we can segment out our customers. And so the beautiful thing is, as you start to dig in, like where, start with where do I want to be looking? What demographics can I narrow down? What psychographics? What are the values that I'm hoping to try and attract? And what do they actually do? If you start imagining a Venn diagram or